So, folks, there's this guy named Donald J. Trump, right? Uh, and I remember like a month or so ago, people were being like, "What the hell is up with his hand? What's going on with his legs? Dude is not like physically not okay." Because there were pictures coming out of him with like huge bruises on his hands that seemed consistent with like IV drips. His legs were swelling up out of his shoes. It was genuinely concerning, and I mean, like somewhat symptomatic of the rest of his administration, of course. And today, the White House released what may possibly be going on. Trump diagnosed with common vein condition after ankle swelling raises concerns. And just to like, it's a little bit of an understatement to say raising concerns. Like, like that those ankles are literally buckling the shoe. Like, it's not, he's not doing okay. You could like compare to like who's the man next to him? Jeff Bezos with an even bigger skull, I guess. Um anyway, that those are not healthy looking ankles, okay? You can compare with other normal sized ankles, okay? And so people were like, what is happening? So he was diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency, which is basically just the blood valves in his legs are damaged, and it's causing blood to pool in various parts of his body, and it's it's a problem that affects a lot of people. Something like 20% of the U.S. population is going to deal with this at some point in their lives, and it's not great. Now, one of the things to note is that it's relatively normal. I know it's exciting to get your hopes up that Mother Nature might finally be coming to grant him a sweet rest, but that's it's not. This is not something where he's in imminent danger. I will note, however, that there are about 6 stages of this chronic illness, and to be diagnosed, you have to be at least stage 3. And the fact that we're all noticing it indicates that it's, you know, more progressed than that. So, it's interesting, but like not all that important overall. However, there are some additional really concerning signs about this man's health. And I'm going to start with one that I mentioned yesterday, because we didn't look at the actual clip, right? And this is where Donald Trump just completely forgot that he appointed Jerome Powell to be head of the Federal Reserve. Like not even like kind of forgot, like just completely obliterated that recent memory from his mind. And you'll see it here. This is actually kind of incredible.
Mr. President, Mr. President Jerome Powell, do you have plans, or if you're back considering firing Jerome Powell? And what's your justification if you're thinking about this to do this?
Too late. He's always been too late. Hence his nickname, Too Late. He should have.
Also, you can tell his brain isn't doing too hot because his nickname game has gotten really bad. Like that's why his nickname is Too Late. Like no one calls him that, and it really just sounds like you said that because that was the literal last phrase that left your mouth. He's always too late. That's why they call him Too Late. Okay. All right. The brain is rotting.
Cut interest rates a long time ago. Europe has cut them 10 times in the short period of time, and we cut them none. The only time he cut them was just before the election to try and help Kamala or Biden, whoever the hell it was, because nobody really knew.
I mean, we when we went to the polls to vote, we definitely knew who was in the race, and that it wasn't Joe Biden. But okay, he seems to be kind of a little uncertain now about even who the who was running against him.
Obviously, that didn't work, but he tried to cut him for the Democrats, Kamala. And how did that work out? You'll tell me. It didn't work out too well, did it? But I think he does a terrible job. He's costing us a lot of money. And we fight through it. It's almost, the country's become so successful that it doesn't have a big impact. But
also, did he call the country a company?
Impact, but it does hurt people wanting to get a mortgage. The country's become so successful. We fight through it. It's almost, the country's become so
No, he did. I just misheard.
Successful that it doesn't have a big impact, but it does hurt people wanting to get a mortgage. People want to buy a house. He's a terrible Fed chair. I was surprised he was appointed. I was surprised, frankly, that Biden put him in and extended him. But
dude's literally talking about how surprised he is that the guy he appointed was appointed. His brain is not fully functional, chat.
They did. So, no, we're not planning on doing anything. We're very concerned. He's doing a little renovation for $2.5 billion of the Fed. Building.
Also, keep in mind, like, Trump is doing this while world leaders just come to talk with Trump, and then he has like a normal ass press conference in front of them while they just sit there awkwardly off camera. It's really, really weird. Also, the room looks more and more piss colored every time we see it. It's gross.
A renovation, and they have a close to $900 million cost overrun. And it's a shame, but the biggest cost overrun is the cost overrun for interest rates, because we should be paying 3 points lower, and we would save $1 trillion a year in interest if that were the case.
It's really, really weird to see a man who it wasn't that long ago. He's only been president again for 6 months, and dude can't remember that he appointed Jerome Powell to be head of the Fed. Like, he can't remember. I was so surprised that they appointed him. I can't believe he's in that position that I appointed him to. Like, he can't remember. But it gets a bit worse. It gets a bit worse. Let's take a look here. I am not going to subject you to this entire speech, right? But basically, the other day, Donald Trump talked about, gave a talk in Pittsburgh, right? And here are just a couple of the claims from that speech. Trump falsely asserted that his late uncle, Dr. John Trump, taught Theodore Kaczynski, the Unabomber, at MIT, despite Kaczynski never attending MIT. Also, despite the fact that his uncle, Dr. John Trump, died in 1985, and the Unabomber wasn't caught until 1996. So, we're talking, not some, small level discrepancies. We're talking, some, next level, oh shit, you don't even know what decade you're talking about. You don't even know, what the hell is happening. Okay? This isn't, there's no reason to tell this lie unless your brain is just utterly gone. This isn't no one's asking him about his uncle teaching the Unabomber. It's just he's gone. He's going. Here's another one. He also claimed to have discussed Kaczynski with his uncle. Again, his uncle didn't know who the Unabomber was because he died in 1985. We're talking he's making multiple claims about this, and it's just not true. He forgot the names during the speech. He forgot the names of some of his closest aides that he works with on a daily basis. So it's not just his propensity to lie. That's not new. But this is a level of bad lying and a level of complete forgetfulness that is just not even in the norm for him, we'll say. Okay? He also claimed that he had gotten a $16 trillion investment for the United States based on nothing, you know? So like he's not okay, chat. The other day he said that he had gotten like cane sugar added back to Coca-Cola in the United States, and Coca-Cola is saying that didn't happen. He literally put out a statement thanking the executive board at Coca-Cola for agreeing to his terms, and Coca-Cola's like, yeah, we didn't agree to that. Like, what are you talking about? So it's look, I'm saying this guy's brain is absolutely cooked. Can we take a look here? Literally, this is the response from Coca-Cola. But Coca-Cola, which has not confirmed a move to cane sugar, replied to a comment on Trump's post saying, all Coca-Cola brand products are wholesome beverages manufactured in compliance with the federal law, which is just their way of saying, the fuck we did. So, yeah, this was in response to his post saying, I've been speaking to Coca-Cola about using real cane sugar in Coke in the United States, and they've agreed to do so. I'd like to thank all of those in authority at Coca-Cola. This will be a very good move by them. You'll see, it's just better. Like, his brain is gone, guys. And, like, this is a trend that is just kind of infecting his entire administration. Like, the dysfunction is real. One of the things that they've been trying to do is they've been trying to make Emile Bovee. I forget how you were supposed to pronounce his last name. I think I heard people calling it Beauvais, but I think that turned out not to be correct. Anyway, Emile Bovee is currently going through the process of being nominated to be a federal judge. And keep in mind, this is the guy that bungled the attempt to blackmail New York Mayor Eric Adams. Well, it's going about as you would expect, except that I lied. It's not going as you would expect because literally 900 former DOJ lawyers signed a letter opposing his nomination. 900 former DOJ lawyers. That's nuts. That's not just lawyers in general. That's former lawyers at the DOJ. The dysfunction is running through the entirety of this. I mean, look at this is Kristi Noem from today, guys. Kristi Noem went out and gave a talk here, and it's maybe one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen in my life.
State and those local officials should. We come in and support them. What you saw happen in Texas was much more how FEMA will look in the future. It won't look like the response to Katrina or the response to even Helene and what happened in North Carolina, where people waited weeks and weeks and months for help or for people to show up, or help was promised and it never came. You look at claims from Katrina, some of them still haven't been paid today. State and those local officials.
She's trying to say, like, oh, yeah, in the future, all of our natural disaster responses will look like how FEMA responded to Texas. And I'm gonna throw this up here. This is an article from just several hours ago today. Let's take a look here. FEMA's quick Texas response was the exception as backlog grows under Trump. 2 days after torrential rains set off fatal flash flooding in the Texas Hill Country, President Donald Trump authorized staff at FEMA to travel to the flood zone to help state and local officials begin the rebuilding process. But that quick response, following widespread media coverage of a disaster that claimed at least 134 lives and left 100 people missing, marked a sharp shift in approach since Trump took office in February. And let's just take a look here. Currently, 5 states, including Indiana, Oregon, Maryland, are awaiting a federal response more than a month after they requested a federal disaster declaration to unlock funds and other critical resources. Quote, "You're waiting weeks, sometimes months to have your disasters declared," said Sarah Labowitz, a senior fellow at the nonprofit Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Texas is the exception, not the rule. And I want to point out something here. Like, they're still waiting for a response from FEMA. in those states. They are still waiting for it. Okay? Mississippi, I think Mississippi is still waiting on a response to flooding that happened like a month and a half ago. It's genuinely bizarre to try and say, oh yeah, Texas will be the model, especially after Kristi Noem personally dropped the ball when it came to the Texas response. Because Kristi Noem implemented a policy where any funds over $100,000 that needed to be allocated had to be personally signed off by her, which meant that a bunch of call centers that take calls during disasters, their contracts lapsed right during the flooding, and she didn't renew them for days, meaning that people were just calling empty lines. They were like people in the disaster zone experiencing the flooding, displaced from their homes, who in some cases lost like everything, just kept calling and calling and calling and didn't get anyone who was willing to pick up at the agency that's responsible for responding to natural disasters. It's genuinely insane to talk about how this is a model for how we're going to react. It's one of the worst, like, mass death flooding disasters in US history, and they're just like, yeah, this was a model response. No, it wasn't. Not even a little. One of the things that should be done in cases like this is that we need to invest in our, weather reading capabilities so that we can be prepared for these disasters before they hit and prevent them from happening in the first place if we can. Disaster preparedness saves lives. But instead, the Trump administration is slashing budgets for things like weather balloons. One of the things that got cut in a rescissions package that Republicans just approved, like at 2 o'clock in the morning last night, is a massive $9 billion cut to public broadcasting. And part of those public broadcasting capabilities are early alert warnings for natural disasters, for things like flooding in rural areas, for things like hurricanes and tornadoes. Because guess what, folks? Sometimes people need other ways to alert them, and they don't have all of the safety mechanisms in large cities. These cuts are gonna, like, destroy not just, like, Elmo, not just, like, Sesame Street. It's gonna, like, destroy the ability to report the news. And Republicans are all, like, claiming victory over, like, some biased left-wing agenda in public broadcasting. But, like, what it's gonna do, first and foremost, is it's gonna kill Republicans. If you're a conservative in a rural area of the country, this is an attack on you and your livelihood. Like, they want to kill their base. It's genuinely wild. Also, worth pointing out here that, like, Pete Hegseth just continues to get involved in, like, wild horse shit over things like Doge. This is a story from earlier this week that I don't think a lot of people talked about. 2 people in the Doge department, which I guess is still running around causing chaos, got into a fight outside of the Pentagon and called the police because of this fight. And Pete Hegseth had to intervene. Like, this is just chaos. None of this makes any sense. But he was the Doge employee, the boss in the Doge administration, was trying to evict another employee of Doge from the Pentagon. Holy shit. But Jack, it's also an attack on other people, and their base cares more about fucking over other people than saving their own lives. I genuinely don't think that they know. They don't know. Like, if you're a rurally based Republican, you don't know that they're trying to kill you. You don't know that they're weakening the systems that keep you and your property safe. You don't know this shit. What you hear is, oh yes, finally they're gonna get those evildoers over at NPR. Like, they don't fucking know. So much of what is happening is due directly downstream to being downstream of Fox News ignorance. They are kept deliberately in a bubble that keeps them from being exposed to additional information that would be inconvenient. So, like, what is happening right now is that there is a massive cascade of bullshit that is going to absolutely destroy entire rural communities. Well, yes, they purposely keep their base mad and ignorant. Yes, of course they do. But I'm trying to say, if you are a conservative and you're watching my show, if you happen to stumble across this because you want to own the libs, they are trying to kill you. I'm not talking about conservative politicians. We all know they're full of shit. And it's so frustrating. It's so constantly frustrating. One of the things, by the way, that has been going on, and I haven't had enough time to talk about it, is that deportations to third countries have resumed. And it's getting weirder because the federal government is trying to claim, oh, we can't possibly deport them to their countries of origin because their countries of origin just won't take them. Except that that's a load of horse shit. So one of the countries that the Trump administration is trying to deport people to now is called Eswatini, which is a kingdom, I guess. I don't know much about it at all. But the reason they were being deported to Eswatini was allegedly because the countries that these people were from didn't want to take them back, except that was revealed to be a complete and utter load of horseshit by Eswatini itself, who issued a statement saying that they're going to send these people back to their countries of origin because none of them have any ties to Eswatini. So that's interesting. Just again, it's some wild shit. And I don't know how to really parse this, but you know how a lot of people think like, oh, if you're conservative, a lot of people think, oh, my tax dollars are going to keeping me and my own safe. Fun fact about that. Your tax dollars are going to like collect the DNA of children. So look, if you're someone who's been one of those think of the children types, I don't understand this. If you're someone who's like deep in like the QAnon movement or something, where like you guys believe that like the elites of the world are harvesting adrenochrome and shit, how are you supporting this? That I oppose it because I think the government collecting the DNA of people is really fucking weird. But and like an invasion of privacy and like a violation in a whole host of different ways. But you all are like in the camp of the elites are trying to like harvest children for their own sadistic purposes. But y'all are okay with the US government taking the DNA of, and I'm quoting this article from Wired here, approximately 133,000 children. Keep in mind, that DNA information is then being added to a criminal database. So now they are going to have these children that DHS is claiming are potential terrorists based on no evidence whatsoever. They're just going to have a permanent mark on their record in the United States as being potential terrorists because they were brought into the country as children. So, this is, I mean, this is some real horse shit. These people are abusing children, violating children's privacy to brand them as criminals for the rest of their lives. And it's just, I mean, the dysfunction runs from the top with a guy who just lies constantly, can't remember the names of people he's worked with for years, doesn't even remember the people he's appointed to some of the most powerful positions on the planet, who has put out statements talking about how like Coca-Cola's, I played hardball with Coca-Cola, now they're going to change their products. And even they're like, no. And meanwhile, you have like heads of these departments, these powerful people he's appointed, trying to say like they have great responses to the challenges in front of them, and like Pete Hegseth can't even get like two dipshits to cooperate in the Pentagon.
Fun fact, but when I migrated to Australia they took my DNA and fingerprints before giving me my residency visa. They also asked to look at my bits.
That is
Australian
gross.
government is full pervert.
Yeah, that sounds gross as fuck. I'm sorry that happened to you. I just the dysfunction is piling on top of itself. You know, the dysfunction on top of dysfunction on top of dysfunction on top of dysfunction, and it's all just kind of teetering. This is not sustainable. I'm gonna keep talking about how, like, this type of structure, this type of leadership, this type of policy, none of it is sustainable. When we talk about fascism being a death cult, being anti-intellectual, etc., it leads to this type of instability and this type of overreach and this type of abuse. And this is why we must oppose it. Because we actually have more strength to oppose it than we might give ourselves credit for. That being said, make sure you continue to organize. Get with your local Dems, get with your local DSA, get with your local Working Families Party, get with your, local sewing group, get with your local rugby club, whatever it is you do, whatever it is you're interested in, whatever people you come into contact with on a daily basis who are at least somewhat sympathetic to what is happening right now, start talking with them about this shit. Start talking with them, okay? We talked a little bit at the beginning of stream today that DSA members in California have been able to work together with other local orgs in order to stop Avelo Airlines from transporting prisoners on the West Coast for ICE, okay? Continue to organize, because we can stop this. We can prevent this from getting worse. We have the ability to do that. And we can do all of that while pointing at these absolute losers that are currently in charge of us, these cowards, and we can bring them down, okay? Yeah, Progressive Victory's been doing great work. DSA, great work. Working Families Party, great work. Even local Democrat groups have been doing great work. You know, your local wine moms who are turning out from, their knitting groups, from their book clubs, they're doing great work. So it's time for each and every one of us to try and step up in the ways we can, because as this regime tries to intensify its grip on power, so too must we intensify our organizing efforts.
Riverboat Jack is going to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, Bane, and plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's